Right now, the wife of the Beaumont man, who is the area's most recent death linked to COVID-19, wants to know if more could have been done to save her husband. 44-year-old Chris Segura was the worship leader at his church and the finance manager at Classic Kia in Beaumont. He died yesterday, his health on the decline now for 3 weeks. KFDM's Angel San Juan spoke to Segura's pastor and his widow. Angel, both didn't find out what was killing him until it was too late.
And it was not for lack of trying, Greg. They knew Chris Segura was seriously ill, but they did not find out he was infected with COVID-19 until he was already hospitalized in ICU, hooked to a ventilator. Tonight, you'll hear from his wife, Stephanie, on the phone. She and the couple's 4 children, along with Chris's father and sister, remain in quarantine.
Yes, he is! Yes, he is!
Watching this video, it's easy to see why Chris Segura was the worship leader at Borden Chapel Missionary Baptist Church. On a weekly basis, his words and his singing would rouse the congregation from their seats onto their feet.
Folk would get excited through his lead, and God inhabits the praises of his people, and so he would lead us to that point.
Aaron Reynolds Jr. is the pastor at Borden Chapel. Chris was his right-hand man, a personal assistant who accompanied him on church business. They even shared what the pastor calls a date night, a weekly meal either at Papado's or at the Crazy Cajun.
It was like a son to me, and we talked every day. And what has been most disheartening this past Sunday, which was yesterday, we would always text each other at 7 p.m. to find out if we were ready to go and eat dinner. And I didn't get a text yesterday. I didn't get a call. And that has really affected me.
Chris Segura, a devout Christian, would die on Easter morning, a victim of COVID-19, the deadly virus claiming the life of another Southeast Texan.
Now it's here in Beaumont, and this time is in my circle. Someone that has been like a son to me for the last 12 to 15 years. And no ways did I expect that to happen to us, but it's real.
Unexpected, even though Pastor Reynolds and Chris's widow started noticing the symptoms 3 weeks ago. They aren't sure others shared the urgency.
With him having a temp of 102, that should have been an indicator for him to be coughing to the magnitude until the bottom of his stomach was hurting. That should have been an indicator.
Chris's wife, Stephanie, says her husband's condition drastically declined Friday, April 3rd.
I heard him scream so loud, and I ran to the bedroom, and he had a pain in the bottom of his stomach that just would not go away. So we called 911, and the EMT came, which we were looking for an ambulance, but of course they did not come. They sent an EMT. And so he checked Chris, and he told Chris he was dehydrated. And he said his lungs sound good and everything.
That was in the afternoon. By 11 that night, Chris was not doing any better. So Stephanie says she brought him to Beaumont Emergency Center.
Chris said that he had 102 fever that the nurse told him. So they ended up giving him antibiotics, they gave him Tylenol, and they gave him cough medicine. And they sent my husband home.
But that would be short-lived. Sunday, Stephanie says Chris remained really sick. She says Pastor Reynolds told them to go to Baptist Hospital. The next day, Chris's condition was critical.
Chris said, "Baby, the doctor said he has to put me on the ventilator or I'm not going to make it."
The doctor at the hospital then got on the phone with Stephanie, asking her about his visit to Beaumont Emergency Center.
The doctor says, "Miss Segura, did they not tell you that your husband had pneumonia?" I said, "No, sir." He said, "Did they not tell your husband that he had bronchitis?" I said, "No, sir."
He asked her if he had been tested for COVID-19. He had, but Stephanie had not been told the result.
I called and I asked him. I said, "I need to know because my husband is in the hospital." They said, "We cannot release this due to the privacy law and the HIPAA law." And I said, "Look, I don't care about the law right now. My husband is in ICU fighting for his life on a ventilator. I need to know."
Turns out he was positive, and less than a week later, he was gone. A spokeswoman for Beaumont Emergency Center issued this statement when we asked about the Segura case. It reads, "Due to HIPAA, we can't comment whether or not a patient has been at Beaumont Emergency Center. What we can say and can assure our community of is that we follow appropriate best practices for the handling of medical emergencies." Chris was a finance manager at Classic Kia. As a precaution, the dealership is closed until April 20th. But for Stephanie, closure might never come. She and Chris were about to celebrate their 10th anniversary. Now she must face living without the love of her life.
He meant the world to me. He meant the world to me. I always tell him he was right under God.
Pastor Reynolds says since the Segura family is in quarantine right now, church members will do a drive-by parade past the family's home and leave the Segura's supplies on their porch, letting them know they are not alone. This is scheduled to happen Wednesday evening at 5:30. Greg?